Here we have our model that was the model that we used for exporting to Substance. This is our main file, which is the low-res version of all our assets. And we are going to do a basic binding to a skeleton so that we can animate it. This strategy we're going to follow is only used for this specific case, so it's not used for every time that you're going to be rigging a character. Applies and it's an application, a simple application for preparing an object for animation to be brought into game engine. So I'm going to start by reminding everybody that I have all my parts separate, and we're going to eventually combine them all together into a single piece. But for now, I'm going to go and create first a join system. Let me split my screen in two, and I'm going to use my side view here, my front view, to create a join system. So I'm going to modify the position of my object on my toe. I'm going to just bring it forward so that it's in the center of the world, at least the base, the root that I'm going to have for it. And I'm going to make sure that on the front view is on the center of the world also, so that is perfectly centered right there. I'm going to just modify and freeze transformation to the group, and that way everything is back to zero. Again, this is a group. Eventually when I lose that group, but for now everything is grouped, so that way my whole character is that way. All the objects that you have on your model need to have no history. For example, I have history on this one. I'm gonna select all of the parts. I'm gonna delete history on all of those parts, and so they don't need to have any history here, and they all need to have frozen transformation. So you gotta make sure you go part by part and go modify freeze transformations so that all the translate and rotate values are 0 and scale are 1. Okay, now I am going to just make sure that I have my toy at the right scale for before I do any joint system or any binding. So I have here a file of the reference cube that gives you the size for your model, and I'm going to use simply that the file is just a Maya file. I'm going to just reference that file into my file where my character is. So I'm just going to say file create reference. And the advantage of creating a reference is that it allows me to remove it, and it's not part of my file. So I'm going to go and say, go and look for it here. Hopefully I'll remember it. It's called toy reference, toy size reference cube, right? And you should find that. So here is my file. So you can see the cube is huge and my toe is very small. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna scale my toe up until he fits comfortably inside of that space. And he is slightly out in his arms. Normally he won't be stretching his arm like that when he's posed. Probably his arms are going to be down. So as long as his arms are down when and when he is posed, he won't go beyond the boundary that he's got. So that's my scale. He's pretty large actually. So I'm gonna go and then modify freeze transformations one more time, so that he goes back to the right size that I want him to be. And then I can go on my reference queue. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to simply go to my reference editor. I'm going to just select it. I'm going to just say reference and then unload. Remove reference. So I'm going to remove my reference. I don't need it anymore. I got my toy at the size that I need it to be. So I'm gonna make sure that that's good. I'm gonna just go and increment and save my file here. So I'm gonna save it first. So I call it robot. Actually, this is not pre-substance anymore. I'm gonna call it robot pre-rig, and I'm gonna say save. And so now I'm ready to have my robot all in place, and I'm going to create a join system. So of course, every object is going to have a different approach for rigging. So the key element is that, at least in this approach I'm going to take here, I'm going to create a join for every part that moves. And when you have parts that move independently from others, they will of course need to have their own dependent join. So the other things you need to think about is what is the center balance of your toy and where it's going to be pivoting when it moves. In this guy, this is a unicycle type of character, type of toy. If you think of it, he's going to be moving all of it from the center of his wheel. His wheel is going to become the center of his movement. Is going to be pivoting around that, and from that, of course, the joint is going to move the wheel, but also going to move the character. So I'm going to need a joint that is going to be probably pivoting on top of the wheel for the upper part of the toy to rig or to rotate, and then I'm going to have one in the center of his body for it to increase the size of this brush here, for it to allow the arms to have connection to it. So it's going to be a joint in the center of each shoulder and a joint in the center of each elbow, and then a joint at the base of the head, and then I'm going to put a joint at the base of the antenna, and I'm going to put a joint on each ear. You decide how many you have, but right now that should be enough. Since my hands won't be moving or anything, I don't need anymore. Maybe I'll put a joint at the end, but the one that's going to be pivoting here is that. So there is a little thing that needs to be corrected here, or not corrected, but talked about, is isolating the wheel from the main controller of the whole character. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So for now, I'm going to just minimize this. I'm going to go and create, I'm going to go to my rigging menu set here. If you don't have it, you can go into your rigging menu set there. And you can go under skeleton and create joints. Or you can use this one to create joints, same thing. I'm going to start by creating joints on those spots. So let me start by putting one right there, as precise as possible. I'm just clicking on that right now, and I just created a joint there. It's very tiny, so you don't see it. I'll change the size of it when I finish. I'm going to create another one. I'm holding shift so that my line goes straight. Okay, that is my second joint. Holding shift for the next one, and holding shift for the next one, and I'm going to hit enter. So I got my spine there. So and I'm going to create a joint for the one arm. I know there's going to have to be one on the shoulder, one on the elbow. So actually, let me just get rid of the grease pencil, because I'm going to get closer to it. So I'm going to go very close here. I want it to be very precise so that the arms will rotate correctly. So I'm going to just put one here for the shoulder, one here for the elbow, and probably one here just to show the visual of the arm. There we go. And those are placed there, but of course you see they don't align on the side view. So I'm going to go and before I do anything else, I'm going to go and mirror this joint to the other side before I connect them to my main character there. So I'm going to go grab the shoulder, under my rigging menu set, under skeleton, I'm going to say mirror joints, and I'm going to mirror them on the axis. I need to mirror them is on Y and Z. So Y and Z, mirror. That way, if the character is symmetric, it should work perfectly. And so now I'm going to go and grab this guy and grab that joint there in the middle of the chest, and I'm going to just I select the child first, then the parent. I'm going to say edit parent, right? That way that joint now gets connected to it. And then let me just hide my geometry for a moment here. So I'm gonna just go and grab this other one. I'm gonna grab that one again, parent. Again, the child first, the parent second. That way you get a whole chain taken care of. And I'm going to now be able to, on the side view, use my move tool. And you want to use your move tool, not rotation tool, your move tool. And what that does is that it guarantees that you're not going to be changing the rotation values, which are very important. So I'm going to just try to keep it so that this is going to be aligned on the center of the character. Actually, my side is not matching. The line that I want to align it is with is this one here. So that way I got him very precise in the center of the wheel. Nothing else. Actually has to go a bit higher there. The center of the wheel is right here. Okay, and I'm gonna go and move this one forward, move it, not rotate it, and then I'm gonna go and move the chest forward maybe a little bit, and the one from the neck I'm going to bring it up a tiny bit so that I got that placed at the base of the head, so that maybe we're going to be higher right there, so the head can move. For the other ones, I'm going to go and create a joint, a separate joint here on the side. I'm gonna click on it at the base of the antenna, right? And I'm gonna create one joint here at the base of the ear. That one is actually not aligned. Let me just bring the geometry one more time. So I'm gonna move it right there. When I press enter, the joint is, gets created, so they are completely the moment separate. So I'm going to actually go and create or duplicate this one that I have selected there, duplicate it, and I'm going to bring it over to make the other ear roughly there. I can go closer and confirm the location. So I'm going to just go and put this one right there, and this one put it right there. Okay, and the one that was at the base of the antenna should be fairly aligned. Okay, so now we're going to, let me hide geometry one more time. We're gonna connect this one to the neck, and that one, the three of them are gonna connect to the neck, so they're gonna move with it. So I'm gonna select the child, select the parent, and then say parent or P on your keyboard. I'll do the same thing here, P on my keyboard, and then this one P on my keyboard. That way they all are aligned and ready. So let me call my geometry one more time, and I have my joint system right here ready to be connected to my character. So you probably want to go and create some names for your joints, that way it's easier for recognizing them. So I'm going to do that right now here. I'm going to just call this one root. I'm going to call this one waist. I'm going to call this one chest. I'm going to call this one head. This one is going to be called left ear. This one's going to be called right ear. Get rid of that. This one I'm going to call it antenna. This one I'm calling it left shoulder. I'm going to purposely kind of put in the name that it's not exactly the way the parts were called before. If you see the names, I'm trying to change it a little bit so they're not the same name. This we're going to call left elbow. This one's going to be left wrist. This one is going to be right shoulder. right elbow, and right wrist. Okay, I think I got all my names taken care of, and I'm ready to have my character uh, you know, bound to the geometry, but there is one extra consideration that I have, and that is that this joint here is going to move my character in all directions, right, when he's animated, uh, but the wheel cannot be attached to that because I need the wheel spinning separately. So actually what I'm going to do here temporarily is I'm going to detach the waist. I'm going to say unparent that one. I'm going to grab that root and I'm going to duplicate that joint, duplicate it. So I have two joints, root and root one. I'm going to call this one wheel. I'm going to call it wheel that way. And then again, I'm going to connect the waist to the root. So child first, parent second. I'm going to say parent. And then the wheel joint, I'm going to make it a child of the root also. Parent. So the wheel is a child of it. So there are two joints on top of each other, but this one is following the other one. So when I move my character, I'm going to move it with this, but when I rotate the wheel, I'm going to rotate that joint, which is the one that's going to be rotating the geometry of the wheel. That's key element. If you have, for example, 4 wheels, let me go to the top view here. Maybe I can just show it. So let's pretend you have a main joint in the center. Instead of having just one joint overlapping, then you're gonna have, let's say you have 4 wheels, you have one joint for the wheel, another joint for the wheel, another one for the other wheel, and then the way. So that way, of course, all of them will be connected to your root joint, and of course these joints are going to be moving the wheels. If you have 4 wheels or you have 2 wheels, whatever it is that you're using them for rotating. In this case, I just have one wheel, so that's why they need to be on the same spot. Right, I'm gonna just stop it here and we continue on the next video.